Michigan State has added over 24 players out of the portal, but is it enough to make an impact for next year?
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, how on earth are we all doing as we are celebrating yet another day of MSU football, diving into the transfer portal? Guys, please rate, review, subscribe, comment below, or reach out to us at lockedonspartans@gmail.com because Stephen Brooks... Hey, you know what? I like to do a lot of hard work. I like to think on this show, but sometimes you just got to take a step back and let people do the work for you. And what do you think about that? You know what? It doesn't hurt to have other people be the executive producer of some of these shows because, Steven, you got your swim trunks on over there? Because I got mine on. You got yours on?
You see me by an exterior door here. I'm usually in my office. My office is occupied. So, Yes, I'm ready to dive in. What do we got? Like 20-some degrees out here. Yeah. Constant snow in the Great Lansing area. So, yes. You don't want to see what's going on under here, but it's beach approved.
Absolutely. And let's cannonball into the mailbag here because Luke writes in a question that is actually on top of a lot of Spartans' minds right now. He said in an email titled, "Am I a Debbie Downer?" He said, "You played the Am I a Silly Goose game on a recent podcast. I want to know, am I a Debbie Downer? I keep seeing posts and pods from MSU people that are so excited about our transfer portal haul. So I looked up the rankings for the portal classes, and we are currently 35th. Now, this was sent a few days ago, actually. Currently, right now, Michigan State is 49th overall, according to 24/7 Sports. The email goes on, I know these rankings aren't the end-all, be-all, but I also feel like it's fair to expect a much higher ranking given A, we are a top 20 program, allegedly, and B, we just got this massive influx of cash, allegedly, and C, we need to fill so many roster spots, I just don't see how people can be excited for a class that isn't even in the top 25, considering the work that needs to be done. Am I a Debbie Downer, or is it fair for us to expect way more?" Steven, you'll be the Dr. Phil in this situation. You'll set our just moods straight right now. People that think that this has been a kind of, yes, a robust, a vast portal pickup, 25 players at the time of recording. Is it still a portal class that kind of leaves a little bit to be desired, or where are you taking this, Steven?
I mean, it's clearly not one that knocks your socks off. You know, they didn't just go buy up, 10 of the top 25 players or something. But I don't think it's concerning either at the same. I mean, it's kind of lukewarm for me. It's right in the middle. Like, they are acquiring bodies, as you said, which at the end of the day had to be the top priority to literally fill out your roster, get 80, 90 quality players in there, get to the 105 or whatever with some walk-ons. But like, you literally just had to fill out your roster to field a team. So that part, yes. I don't think it's clearly not a group that jumps off the paper where it's like, oh, maybe they'll be able to skip a step in this rebuild, and jump right out to like 8-9 wins or something right out of the chute. I don't necessarily see that, but I see some guys that can come in and contribute right away that seem to have some pretty decent pedigrees in a lot of ways. I see some guys that are clearly depth, but enough guys at certain positions that I think you feel good about fielding a competitive, competent team that can push for a bowl game next year. And I think that, and you boil it all down to the most reasonable sense. Like, I think that's what people should be hoping for when you're one of Pat Fitzgerald. I know he's making people excited with his public appearances and just the general thirst for better football and everything. I get all that. I think for year one, it was always going to be like, get to a bowl game at a minimum, like show some improvement, show some competency. Don't look, underprepared, all these things that we've talked about a few times, the last handful of years. But if you were expecting like a 10-win season right out of the gate, I don't know what to tell you. This doesn't seem like a class to me that's going to like supercharge things, but it does seem like a solid building block group that can get you off and rolling to a solid start and to the beginning stages of the build that people want to see, which is going to be pushing for that bowl game. Maybe you get to 7, maybe you get to 8 even, something like that. But trying to keep expectations in perspective, like it is a reset, whatever he said. He had a line the other day, but like so many 40 guys out, it's going to be 40 some guys in basically. Like you are starting from scratch, new schemes, both sides of the ball. So I would just say, like, in terms of the 2026 season, that's about the bar. I think, to me, reach a bowl game. It's something. It's not a high bar, but something these guys haven't done in a while. And I think this is a class that, to me, looks capable of doing that. I guess, to bottom line it. I don't think it's it's not a Signetti class where you're like, oh my gosh, they can make a sneaky run next year or something.
Of course, right.
Not even. I shouldn't have even evoked his name because I know that stirs up.
You just shut up the blood pressure of so many listeners right now. But yeah, go on. Way to go. But go on.
I'm not concerned to the point where I'm like, ooh, they're going to go 4-8 again. The pieces that they're building, I think there's enough there to get this era off on a solid foot. And then it's going to be it was always going to be recruiting 2 classes from now in the high school level and getting better in that regard, and then being able to dip a few more layers above in the transfer portal. But I'm sure we'll talk about it. But the portal in general, I think, is not at the same quality that people are used to or have expected in the last few years.
That's what I've tried to caution people here. Like, ramping up the portal season, like, this isn't what it was 2-3 years ago. Teams are getting so much better at keeping key players at key positions. This is why getting an edge rusher is way easier to actually say it than we'll do it. And that is only exponentially harder when you've got 40 other roster spots that you got to fill here. But Stephen, I'm kind of caught in the middle here, and I hate to use this word, and it's kind of a word that gets you in danger here on the Locked On Network. It's an F word. I think it's fine. It's a fine portal class. Like you said, it's not going to knock your socks off. They definitely, I think, have taken steps forward in a few position groups, but this is what I tried to caution people. It's not going to be a lot of splashes. There will be a splash here or there, but when you lose 40 people to the transfer portal and then people that just ran out of eligibility, you got to restock the shelves here. Yes, the recruiting class they brought in, that's fine. Hey, great job keeping that together, but oh man, there's way too many needs on this grocery list to like put all your assets toward just one major splash at a position group. But with that said, even though I've cautioned it, even though I've preached it, it's also hard for me to look at this edge group, which is, if it's not number 1 on your need list going into the portal season, it was 2 or 1B. Right now, you're looking at what's that group right now? Anelu Lafayette, Isaac Smith, if he gets another 5th year of eligibility, Corey House, who's never played a snap of college football, Trey Lyle, who you got from Southeast Missouri, and Keenis Thompson, a guy you got from Weber State. Look, that's great that they got better on the offensive line. I like the moves that they made at the safety position. That's all fun and well. Please tell me this isn't it for the edge group. No disrespect to any of these kids, but I can't be counting on Anelu Lafayette, what was the injury he had last year? His leg exploded or something like that? I need the room to look better than this, Stephen. I mean, talk me off the edge here.
Right. So so when we talk about the class as a whole, like, that's still a weakness and it's still a big hole for me across the D line. I mean, they need interior guys too.
Yes.
They need edge guys. And even if they had kept everybody, I would still, as we've talked about, I would have been saying that if they didn't lose anybody from last year's team, because it just wasn't good enough.
Correct.
Let's say, Jalen Thompson, Alex Van Sumer, and say those guys were back, I'd still be trying to upgrade over them. They'd be nice players to have, and maybe they win jobs and they play a lot of snaps for you regardless of everything. But I still would have wanted guys even better than them, if I could have. So yeah, that's still the question for me. I agree with you. I think they fixed up the offensive line in a pretty good way to where you could see that maybe a good unit could emerge. And I don't mean to water it down that far, but I'm not going to lead people down a path with the offensive line until we see it. We've been talking about this for a decade now, but there's enough pieces there that I think things could come together in a pretty solid way, to be honest, when you mix in returners like Connor Moore and Luka Vincic coming back.
Sure.
Rakeem Johnson should be back. I believe Rustin Young pulled out. Those guys will be nice depth. They're still good young players. So you should have a good 8-9 guys that should be competitive and some experience and everything. So I like that. You've got some running backs now, refilled that group. Don't love what they've done at receiver yet. Think they need to get better there. Linebacker, they're adding one like every day, it seems like. They'll be good there. They've got some different skill sets and everything. But, yeah, it comes back to that. Where's the edge? It was a massive weakness last year. Lafayette is an interesting player, as you mentioned. Yeah. But coming off an injury, still hasn't played a ton of college football at all. And you don't really want to be banking on that potential at this point. You'd love to see someone come in with an 8.5 sack season last year, right? At whatever level, honestly, at this point. But So yeah, that and interior, that wasn't good enough last year. They've lost some guys now. I don't think they have enough there either. So that's going to be, to me, a main focus through the rest of the stretch here, because I don't think those are definitely some of the holes. I mean, as we said, they've added some guys that we think could be starters. Added some guys that probably look like depth, just because he had to do some things like that. But D-line, you could really use both, and so that's what I'm going to be waiting to see.
Not to be hypocritical to something I just said, like, yes, I am aware that it's hard to get an edge guy, but surely it has to be better than a guy from, no disrespect, I mean, this is horrible, but like, it's got to be better than a guy from Weber State or Southeast Missouri. Again, not to say that they weren't just Goliaths down there at that level, but I don't know, they were somewhat productive. I don't know, this is a pretty big jump for them to make, and for us to just blindly believe, like, yep, this is a solution. But Stephen, we were asked a question yesterday. 3 impact guys out of the portal on each side of the ball. I listed my 6 players. I want to test this with you here on the other side of this break. But first, I need to talk to people's ears off about Game Time, the greatest ticketing app out there, guys. And hey, for the rest of Michigan State's basketball season, where can you find tickets? Yeah, sure. You can go to those other sites, the ones where, oh my God, wow, that's $30 tickets. This is great. And then 15 taps later, mystery fees have been added, and now these tickets are $79. Like, sure, if you want the headaches, you can go ahead and use those apps, be my guest. Or if you just want a simple process that you can also save money with, Game Time. It's the upfront cost right there. It's 2 taps, bam, tickets are sent straight to your phone. Even if you're looking at a game weeks in advance, you can still save guys with their flash deals. Or let's say, hey, you're driving by East Lansing. Oh, that's right, the team tips off in 20 minutes, but it's probably too late to save, right? Nope, wrong. With their last-minute ticket deals, you could still save up until tip-off with Game Time, guys. Take the guesswork out of buying college tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Now let's drag him back out here, the one, the only Stephen Brooks of 24/7 Sports. And Stephen, yesterday we got a question. Hey, who are the guys that we should be paying attention to? Who are the top 3 guys on each side of the ball here? And let's start with offense, because I did one fun, exhilarating skill position player that's going to be a household name, Cam Edwards. Okay, that was the easy one, the transfer from UConn. And then I went with Ben Murawski, the left tackle, and then Trent Fraley, interior offensive lineman from North Dakota State. Stephen, did I go 3 for 3 on the offensive side of the ball? Or are you going to swap someone out here?
In terms of biggest impact, I do think you probably nailed it.
Let's go.
Murawski, it's hard to see him not being one of the 2 starting tackles with Connor Moore. It's hard to see Fraley not being the center when you lose Gulbin and Terpstra, obviously. So you had no depth there. I still think Raheem Johnson could be an interesting center. Maybe that's something that happens, but you plug him in, Fraley there. So you're talking about 2 starters. More than likely, I think Edwards is capable of being a bell cow type, or at least a 1A. Definitely in a rotation. I think I like Marvis Parrish, the sort of scat back they got from Western Kentucky too. But Edwards kind of will probably be like your lead dog, or at least is capable of that. So I do think so in terms of usage. In terms of intrigue, if you twist it just a little bit, I would sub one of those guys out, and I would put Carson Gulker in there, the Ferris State transfer.
I like that.
Multi-tool weapon, fits the super back role that Pat Fitzgerald used to use at Northwestern, a decade ago, with dudes who are like 6'4", 220-ish, can run, catch, maybe throw a little bit, like
Jacked,
do it
right?
all. I think this guy, he's played quarterback before, but he was like a tight end H-back for Ferris last year. They do a whole bunch of different things offensively. So this guy just looks like the ultimate like chess piece, like slot, H-back, line him up at running back, fullback, split him out wide. The really thing I think is interesting is maybe a short yardage quarterback deal, whether he's out there with a running back, whether he's like the tush push specialist, whether he's pushing the guy, or maybe they snap it, throw it to him, trick plays with throwing him the ball, throwing the ball, him catching the ball, running the ball, lining up all over the field. The things that you could do with a guy like this who has done a lot of things already at Ferris, I think is really interesting. So just a solid athlete with a nice frame that you could move all over. He's the other guy offensively that really, really catches my eye at this point.
I got the wheels turning in my head right now because Cam Fancher, backup quarterback, we've seen his work. We see the way he has no regard for his own safety or health on a football field. Yes. Ball snap to Cam Fancher. who's like, look, he's not like my size. He's not like a jockey by any means, but he's on the smaller side of quarterbacks. Carson Golker picks him up, throws him over the line for a touchdown. I think that's another package that you could unveil too. Who's to say?
Yeah, or he hands it off to Gulker, who's running laterally, and Gulker throws it, over the top to somebody who's leaking out. Or I think there's a ton of short yardage, 4th and 3 goal line sort of stuff that you can do with a guy like that who is comfortable taking snaps, throwing the ball, playing quarterback, but then has the physicality and the experience of being an H-back, a blocker. You don't have to take him off the field, and you can line him up every different position, without substituting. So I think he's going to have a lot of value, and I think, I'm intrigued by Nick Sheridan, the OC. I think a really good OC should be able to unlock a lot of different stuff with a guy like that. But then the other two, the O-lineman, for sure, got to get that spot right. And then, like I said, a receiver, I think they probably need some help there. I'm a little underwhelmed there, I guess.
Yes.
And but so that's the guy other than the ones you mentioned for me on offense.
Defensive side of the ball was kind of – I'm not as sold on my 3, and I really swapped a lot of guys out, but this is who I netted out on yesterday's show. I did cornerback Tre Bell from Iowa State, played 8 games there, following his position coach to Michigan State, of course. I went to the defensive line. Eli Conan out of Illinois, a guy that got better and better as the season went along for Illinois in a rather crowded defensive line room for the Illini. And then batting third, I went out of Louisiana Tech, the safety/nickel guy, Michael Richard, because he'll produce at an all-conference USA level. I mean, he's been experienced ever since his freshman season, and he could be a chess piece that, like I said, you can move from that nickel, box safety, what have you. Those were my 3 I went with. You could tell in my voice that I'm not as confident. So are you going to swap all 3 out? You're going to just take a few out, or did I, against all odds, ace what you're thinking too here?
I'm intrigued by all those guys. The defensive picture, I feel like, is less clear.
It is.
In terms of just as much, who might slot, who's going to be more towards the top of the depth chart, who's going to be more of a 2. It's harder to tell, especially because of the range of levels, I think, is greater on that side. You are talking FCS and just all these different levels, G5, Power 5, different experience. There's a wide range of resumes, I guess we'll call it, in the defensive class. That being said, I do like the Illinois D lineman. Forgetting his name right now. I just had it up in front of me here. Eli Conan, 6'7", Again, you needed bodies in there. Intriguing guy, got better, as you said. So it should be a guy that's at least in your rotation. Should be a solid part of your defense, whether he's a 15, 20 snap guy or a 30-plus type snap guy. We'll see. Deion Crawford, the linebacker from Buffalo. The linebackers are probably my favorite group out of the defensive class so far. Deion Crawford from Buffalo was an all-MAC guy, had a career high tackles last year, has just played football and has been a solid football player in the Division I level. I know it's the MAC, but those are the type of guys that have really flourished when they've come up because they've just had nice, solid careers. Maybe not outright stars, but they're able to fill in because they can just play football, and they have played a lot of football. Yep. So you look at Crawford's resume, I think he's exciting as a plug-and-play guy. Either as a starter, probably on special teams, definitely as a rotation guy. But a lot of guys of his profile have translated pretty well. Again, maybe not being a star to being a star here, but just in terms of filling roles, being a productive, constructive member of a defense of an all-22. I think he's got a chance there. And then, what about the great Charles Brantley?
That is a great question. Am I just too, I guess, hung up with the fact that he only played 30-some snaps at Miami?
Probably.
Do I need to let that go? Do I just act like it never happened? Okay.
I don't know. I gotta I've been meaning to text some of our reporters down there and see what exactly went on with all that, because that was pretty weird how he couldn't play at all. And then of course, calculations come into play of preserving eligibility or whatever, gamesmanship and everything. So I don't know the whole deal there, but. Mm-hmm. He wasn't everyone's favorite here, but man, he has played a lot of football and he has played some pretty good football. Boomer bust guy. That's probably just what he's always going to be. They're going to get some gambles and you're going to win, and sometimes you're going to crap out. That's going to be part of the package with him. But physical dude, aggressive, not fearless. We'll see how he translates to this system because he hasn't been a part of a Joe Rossi defense, but. I guess I just kind of take the known there. I haven't seen a lot of these other DBs. Hand on the Bible,
Sure.
But I've seen a good 30 games or so of Chuck Brantley, and I just know what I'm getting there. And look, if he had 20 more pounds, he'd probably be in the NFL. Like, you could clear up some of that inconsistency if he had a little more to him, frame wise and everything. So I think he's a guy that can help him. Whether it's maybe he's a second string guy who plays a decent amount, like we saw this year, like. Not that they're the same type of situation, but like how Aiden West, started as a backup, took on a little more, and eventually, he sort of overtook it. But in sort of a third or fourth corner role, maybe at the worst, I definitely think he will play for them and help them. Maybe he's a starter, maybe he's their lead corner. But I know more about him, so I thought it was a good pickup. I know it's been a weird journey for him, and he's kind of been in the portal every offseason, basically.
But, sometimes twice in the same offseason. Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. I was there for that. Yep. I remember these days. So anyway, I just think he's a guy that can help him. We've seen him play some solid ball in the Big Ten. So
yeah,
give me old number 0, part 2.
I love that. Let's go. There's one more topic I wanted to bring up here, and it's biggest surprise so far of the portal season. Now, you could take this in any way possible, but before I let you answer, Steven, I'm going to be selfish, and I'm just going to get what's puzzling me or surprising me the most right now. Because this running back room, I mean, that's great that they've added Cam Edwards. Obviously, I think very highly of him. Marvis Parrish, I think that they're going to try to make him become who Jarek Broussard was supposed to be a few years ago. I mean, granted with a little more eligibility, but hey, I love that pickup out of Western Kentucky. And then, sure, Jazzy and Patterson from Iowa, why not? Carson Golker, yeah, I mean, he might be getting some handoffs too. That's 4 guys. You also have Brandon Tullis right now, and then also Jace Clarizio. That's 6 running backs. I'm not trying to chase kids out of the program, but there are 2 more days left of this portal window being open, if I am correct here. I'm a little shocked that even though they've added 3, arguably 4 running backs here, that Tullis and Jace have not announced yet. Of course, I'd rather them stick here, but that's a 6 running back room. There's no spring portal cycle to see where you stack up after a few spring practices. I am bewildered at this. It just seems like in this day and age, if you fall behind third in the pecking order, you're out. Steven, I'll say it for the 3rd time. There's 6 people in this room. So that's been just spinning my head around and around as this running back room is a crowded elevator.
It is interesting. What does Cam Edwards have eligible? Does he have 1 or 2 left? Do you know?
Steven, I don't know.
This is all a riddle and a mystery.
When Alante Brown today announced that he's entering the transfer portal, that was the last straw. I was like, that's it. I have no idea what eligibility is anymore. I got no clue.
Fair.
So maybe 2, maybe 1, perhaps 5. I don't know, Steven. I'm sorry.
I was going down the path of like how staggered they are, maybe eligibility wise. And look, I mean, if they haven't gone in yet, I would imagine there's maybe some ideas of like, hey, maybe this guy will probably leave next year, or this guy, we think we can get him to the NFL next year. So there will be some natural processing and filtering out. Look, they didn't add a running back. I'm double checking. They didn't have a running back in the last high school class, I don't believe, unless I'm missing one. So you're okay there. I think it's going to be a high turnover, high volatility position in the portal era for the most part. So you get your guy. It's nice to have depth, as they saw this year. They ended up with basically like 1.5 guys healthy at the end there. So
that's a good point.
It's a physical position, obviously. So it's interesting. I like that they have different skill sets. Like I think Parrish is his own guy and can be used as a change of pace, home run hit threat type of guy. Get him in space, beat him to the edge type of thing. Jace is a total unknown. Clarizio missed all of last year. Obviously, was a 4-star kid coming out, and we saw Tullis, and he's got some. He brings some different things to the table, but he's got a lot of things that he should clean up too to be a consistent piece of the offense. So that's a good one. In terms of surprises, I mean, we've covered the D-line. Like I thought that would be addressed sort of more aggressively and urgently earlier. So we'll have to see how that all actually plays out, because that is, as you said, as I've said 100 times, like that was a known issue. So seeing what happens there. But I would say, like in terms of surprise, to me, it was how quickly they just got the ball rolling, with the class. Maybe that seems like a low bar or something, but when you've got a head coach who hasn't been in the game in 3 seasons, and a staff that's come, from all corners, that some that haven't worked together, some that were here, obviously, and all this putting it together. I mean, they were getting commitments, I believe, right on January 2nd, right?
I believe so.
Definitely the 3rd, So to come flying out of the gates as a brand new staff that hasn't been here as a head coach, who has not been on the sidelines, hasn't seen his face. People haven't seen his face on TV. He hasn't been coming around their schools. He just hasn't been very visible unless you're, our age or older or something where you know all this stuff. But like to the 17-year-old, Pat Fitzgerald hasn't been that visible the last few years.
Mm-hmm.
I guess we're talking more of like the 21-year-old transfer, but same thing, really. You've been siloed off in whatever program you are. You don't really know what's been going on with Northwestern and everything. So anyway, I just think that part's been impressive. And I think that speaks to the difference that he is as a recruiter. We can all imagine, right? Sitting down in your exit meeting with Pat Fitzgerald and then maybe sitting in one with Jonathan Smith. And I don't necessarily mean that as a slight, but there's a difference there, right?
No, truly, yeah.
I think that Fitzgerald's showing he's a better closer. I think the face-to-face and just getting around him, I think, is a more impactful tool in his bag than it was for Jonathan Smith. I think he's a better work in the room, right? Schmoozer with the parents, with the family, with the kid, though, looking him in the eye and trying to outline the vision to him and everything. So I think that, to me, is what was more interesting, is it was like bang, bang, bang for the first week, really, several a day. But just they got guys on campus, and it was like they got them for the most part. It wasn't like, I'm going to take 3 more visits and I'll call you in a week. Or
right.
They're battling out through the end, with Wisconsin or whoever, whatever. And it seemed like that was like a lot of the case the last couple of cycles. It was always a battle with these 2 or 3 schools down to the wire for some transfer. And he'd visit MSU, but then he had 2 or 3 lined up after that, early on especially. Now, I'm sure some of this groundwork was happening before the portal was officially open, and that's just the game these days, and people know people. And,
come on.
It's just – I'm sure some of this happened before January 1st just because that's just how the thing works.
You
now.
have
I'm not
to.
saying anybody did anything wrong or anything. Some of these people followed their coaches here, like from Iowa or whatever. But just saying that I think the speed with which that they've put it together right at the onset, there was no like warming up period. And it's like, okay, they've had a few visits. Now they're hitting their stride. It was like gates are open. They're going,
Yep.
So I think that's been pretty impressive, again, for a brand new staff and led by a coach that hasn't really operated in this exact environment.
Stephen, always awesome talking with you, but especially at a time of year where, man, it just feels like your head is just spinning round and round like an owl and just trying to make sense of everything going on. So it's awesome to have just a great football mind like yourself on. So much appreciated, man. Anything you want to plug here before you let you go and enjoy the rest of your very relaxing, the rest of the portal season here?
Yes. Just check out SpartanTailgate.com, and we'd love to have you as a VIP member. I believe as of today, it's still 50% off.
Okay.
Which is obviously less than normal price. So great deal. Get yourself in there for a year. We're covering all these portal commitments, what they mean, where they fit, trying our best to put the pieces together. And, as it eventually slows down, we'll have a lot more sort of exhale, like here's where things shape out. Here's some analysis of this and that, or where players we like, players we think can impact you right away. Things that we've talked about here, maybe just in a different flavor or something like that. And then, of course, there's basketball still going on, all kinds of stuff. So SpartanTailgate.com, check us out as a VIP member to get the full experience, and we'd love to have you.
Let's go, guys. And also, hey, if anything else breaks out of the portal, which you already know it will, you're going to hear about it right here, Locked On Spartans, because, yes, we will be back tomorrow. We'll be back the next day because we do this every single day during the week, guys. Until next time, though, take care of yourselves. Love you all, including you, Stephen. Go Green.